Let me- Okay, so everybody should see the green screen. Wild out Jersey friendly yards. Is that visible?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. All right. So hello everyone. Thank you so much, Karen, for that amazing overview of our wonderful Jersey Friendly Yards website. It's very exciting. I saw a lot of the chat and people sharing how they have been using it and how useful it is. And I saw one participant said that she found it accidentally and is very glad because it's working out well for planning her garden. So it's all wonderful feedback, and we really do appreciate your feedback. And let us know what you think about the website after you have a chance to use it. So I just want to introduce myself one more time. My name is Becky Laboy, and I'm the Education Outreach Specialist for Ocean County Soil Conservation District. And as the Education Outreach Specialist, I offer programs that bring awareness to the importance of natural resources, including soil and water, and their conservation. And in addition, I promote environmental stewardship throughout the Barnegat Bay watershed. And your role, everyone watching today, your role as a native plant gardener is a really, really important way for you to be an environmental steward of your watershed, wherever it is in New Jersey and your county. So partnerships and combined efforts of the Soil District with agencies such as the Barnegat Bay Partnership and Rutgers Cooperative Extension and the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection have all served to enhance our education efforts. So over the past 5 years, the Ocean County Soil Conservation District has received several small grants that have allowed us to develop and present numerous educational programs, design and install Jersey-friendly gardens, which is one of my favorite things to do, and to also work with homeowners and residents and the community so that they can also install, design and install their own Jersey-friendly gardens. So I am going to introduce you to one of our Jersey friendly gardeners who is wild about Jersey friendly yards and take you on a tour of her garden and show you just how wild about Jersey friendly yards she actually is. So I'm going to stop my video actually and have you focus just on the slides. So there we go. All right, so here's Phyllis. So Phyllis is one of our Jersey-friendly gardeners, and she's also an Ocean County Master Gardener with an interest in what's called IPM, which is Integrated Pest Management. And Phyllis says that she likes to think of IPM as a building block for sustainability in our landscape. So I'm quoting her. She says it's a way to combat pests with minimal impact on the environment. And practicing IPM allows nature to do what nature does best, right? So keep things in balance. And the best thing that you can do for your garden is to pay attention and be aware of what's going on in your garden on a regular basis. And this actually allows you to set a threshold of damage that you're going to be able to tolerate, and also prepares you to swiftly initiate the least invasive treatment possible. So Phyllis is a Jersey Friendly gardener. She actually applied to participate in one of our Jersey Friendly Yards small grant programs 3 years ago. And she wanted help turning her yard into an oasis for pollinators. Phyllis enjoys butterflies, moths, and she just enjoys insects of all kinds. She is involved with collecting butterflies, capturing them, luring them into her yard in a very kind way, and tagging them and feeding them and then releasing them. So she wanted ample food sources in her yard for both the larva, the caterpillar stages, as well as the adult stages within the insect's life cycle. So In April of 2018, 3 years ago, we assessed her yard and we talked about the different steps that Karen had introduced to you earlier. And she talked about what steps she wanted to take to basically lose her lawn and instead grow a garden. So she logged on to the Jersey Friendly Yards website and she used the interactive yard for ideas and for inspiration, as well as the plant database to determine just the right plants for her place. And 3 years later, here is what her front lawn now looks like, and it is an oasis for pollinators. So Phyllis lives on a corner lot, and here is her lawn from another direction. And here is that view a year into her Jersey Friendly makeover. So July of 2019. And here's Phyllis waving at the mailbox, proudly showcasing her garden this year. So this month, July of 2020. It looks absolutely amazing. She's done a fantastic job. So we are going to take a virtual tour of Phyllis's garden and learn about the many different plant species and garden features that Phyllis has included in her Jersey Friendly garden design. So right below her mailbox, you'll see New Jersey's only native cactus. This is prickly pear cactus, Opuntia humifusa. So it has very flat and fleshy oval pads that are evergreen. In the springtime and summertime, they stand erect. They lie horizontally on the ground in the winter and they desiccate a little bit, but they never go completely dormant. The pads become a little bit shriveled, but they plump up again in the spring. And this cactus has one of the most beautiful flowers that I've ever seen. And certainly, of course, Phyllis enjoys it. It's bright yellow, it's very ornate, and each of the flowers develop along the top of each pad, and they bloom June and July. So they're in bloom right now. And each flower is diurnal, so it blooms for only one day, and they are magnets for bees. So the bees actually dive into the center of the flowers. It's kind of fun to watch them swim through that flower, looking for nectar and pollen. And then after the flower is pollinated and fertilized by the bees, a red edible fruit will actually develop. And the flowers, the fruits, and the pads are all food for wildlife. The pads and fruit are also edible for humans. However, do be careful because little tiny reddish, they persist, and this plant necessitates much care when you're handling all parts of it. The prickly pear cactus grows really well in sandy soil, so you can get a pad from your neighbor who's growing one and basically just throw it in your soil in your rocky garden in a sunny place, and sure enough, it'll take root and you can grow this as a beautiful ground cover. So Phyllis is also growing swamp milkweed. So swamp milkweed is a wildlife friendly perennial. It has clusters of really beautiful and fragrant pink flowers that bloom atop the stems from July through August. And then if you're familiar with milkweed, you know that the flowers are followed by seed pods. And when they're dried, they're really pretty in flower arrangements, but they'll open up and the seeds will spread through wind dispersal and hopefully plant somewhere else in your garden so you can grow this flower again next year. It has a long taproot, the milkweed does. So once you put it somewhere, it's best not to transplant it. So make sure you know exactly where you want to put it. It does have great value for native bees. Swamp milkweed is also a host plant for, as you probably know, monarch butterfly, as well as the queen butterfly. So the stems and leaves have milky sap, and it contains what's called cardiac glycosides. And when they're ingested by the monarch butterfly larva, the caterpillars feeding on the leaves, these toxins make the caterpillar then toxic to birds and other predators. So this is a specialist. So this is a wonderful plant. And Phyllis has created labels for her plants. So these labels indicate different qualities and characteristics as noted on the Jersey Friendly Yards plant database. So for example, swamp milkweed, you can see it's native to New Jersey. It tolerates rabbit and deer browse. It attracts beneficial insects and bees and butterflies and is a host plant for the larvae of monarchs. Another type of milkweed you might not be as familiar with. This one is Asclepias verticillata, world milkweed. It has a very skinny kind of whorled leaves that go around the stem. There are clusters of kind of white to greenish white flowers on the top of each plant. Grows only about 2 feet tall. And the flowers bloom anytime between July and September, which is a little bit later in the year than many other milkweeds. And the nectar of the flowers is very attractive to many different kinds of insects, including long-tongued bees, short-tongued bees, wasps, flies, butterflies, skippers, beetles. And swamp milkweed is deer and rabbit resistant, or excuse me, world milkweed is also deer and rabbit resistant. So as we walk along the pathway and peer into Phyllis's garden beds, I'm going to bring your attention to a few specific plants. And here we have large-headed, or also called long-headed, coneflower. It has a deep central taproot, making it very drought tolerant. And the scientific name is Ratibida columnifera. And the columnifera means in the shape of a column, which describes its most distinguishing feature, the tall central cone. The yellow petals that hang downward from the cone, they're actually sterile flowers, and it's the hundreds of disc flowers or florets on the cone that will be visited by pollinators and eventually develop into the seeds. And this plant does self-seed well. It averages 2 to 3 feet in height. It is, however, susceptible to deer browse. Other names, common names for this plant might include upright prairie coneflower and Mexican hat. And Phyllis grows several types of goldenrods in her garden. Pictured here is the showy goldenrod, Solidago species, which tends to bloom a little later than most goldenrods. And she also has stiff goldenrod and seaside goldenrod. Goldenrod flowers generally attract honeybees, bumblebees, ants, beetles, moths, and butterflies, all primarily seeking nectar. The caterpillars of many different moths actually feed on various parts of different goldenrod species. And deer and rabbit occasionally eat the vegetative parts of the plant. However, many goldenrods contain mildly poisonous chemicals that do deter some herbivores. The seeds are eaten by birds, and pictured here is a ruby-crowned kinglet perched on seaside goldenrod. And that picture was taken by a birder and photographer friend, Carmela Moneta. So this bird possibly, it's a tiny-billed bird, so it's possibly gleaning insects from this plant as it migrates through. So here Phyllis is pointing out some ground covers she's planting to create a green mulch. She has some sedum mixed with partridge pea. The partridge pea will get clusters of bright yellow flowers that bloom in June through September, which are visited by butterflies, also visited by beneficial wasps and native bees who nectar on the flowers. It's also a host plant for various species of sulfur butterfly larvae, caterpillars. Fertilized flowers actually produce flattened seed pods containing 2 to 4 seeds, and they are eaten by birds. And this particular plant is highly adaptable to various soil conditions. It can grow in dry sand, clay, loam, and it's a prolific self-seeder. So this annual plant will actually germinate each season in number as it self-seeds. And it's a member of the legume family, so its roots form important relationships with fungi in the soil and help fix nitrogen. And this little ground cover is called St. Andrew's Cross. It's a sub-shrub, it's considered, and it tolerates dry soil and full to part sun. It has small four-petaled kind of cross-shaped flowers, thus its name, and they bloom in July through September. This cute plant is called Pussy Toes, and it also makes a great ground cover, which is the intention here. It has woolly, mat forming leaves when it starts to spread, and it has whitish pink flowers that bloom in the spring on female plants. And Phyllis created garden beds that actually circle all the way around to the other side of her house, which is adjacent to a stream bed. So here she planted, if you can see that little shrub in the center with little yellow flowers, it's called shrubby St. John's wort. It's a small, rounded, multi-branched shrub, very fine textured foliage, which actually turns kind of a yellowish green in the fall. It's very pretty. The leaves contain a toxic chemical which does deter deer browse. And as the shrub matures, it has the older woody stems turn a very attractive reddish brown color and begin to exfoliate, which offers some interest in the winter garden. And it has clusters of bright yellow flowers that bloom June through August. I actually have this plant in my garden, and this is the flowers that are blooming on my plant right now. I'm very happy, as you can imagine. It's just beautiful. The flowers actually don't produce nectar. They're visited by pollen-seeking bumblebees, halictid bees, and syrphid flies. It's also a host plant for caterpillars of gray hair-streaked butterflies and a variety of moths. And this shrub there is right in the center of the screen is called ninebark. Physocarpus opifolius, and this is another wildlife-friendly plant. It's a very spreading deciduous shrub. It will get quite big. It's valued for its exfoliating bark, which reveals layers of reddish-brown inner bark, which also offers winter interest. This plant tolerates poor soil conditions, so it's very tolerant and hardy. And then in the spring, clusters of kind of pinkish white flowers bloom May through June. They're very pretty, and they provide an excellent nectar source for native bees. And then clusters of red fruit offer food for birds in the summertime. So again, rounding the corner of Phyllis's garden, we can see some taller plants on the left and some shorter plants bordering above a stream bed, which is situated below, and that's on the right-hand side. And so common milkweed is on the left, Asclepias syriaca. It's another wildlife-friendly perennial. You may be familiar with it. It has large, thick, light green leaves with red veins. And then it has the rounded clusters of the fragrant pinkish purple flowers that bloom June through August. And they offer a very important nectar source for bees. And you can see that these flowers are just loaded with bees of many different sizes. Buzzing around these flowers. And then later on, seed pods develop and they split open when they're ripe and they release the silky wind dispersed seeds. So this is a fabulous plant to plant in your yard. And as we know, common food source for monarch butterfly caterpillars, the milkweed is. Again, the leaves have that milky sap, which contains the cardiac glycosides. So as those caterpillars ingest it, they are toxic to predators. And over there on the right side, Phyllis has planted some great blue lobelia. Lobelia is a pretty tolerant plant. It grows in part shade, but it's also tolerant of full sun. Its native habitat includes swamps and moist, low areas, but once it establishes in your yard, it can be quite drought tolerant. You can plant it in rain gardens, wildlife gardens, woodland gardens. It's quite versatile. And it gets this beautiful kind of purplish blue flower, like a tubular shaped flower, which bloom July through September. And they're kind of in clusters whirled around the top of the stems. And the nectar is a food source for bees and hummingbirds. And it actually has a special value for native bees and bumblebees. And in the stream bed, there's several large trees growing, including this beautiful, beautiful sour gum, also called black gum or tupelo, Nyssa sylvatica. It's one of my favorite trees. It's just gorgeous. It's a flowering deciduous tree, and it offers many benefits for wildlife. In May through June, it has white flowers. They're inconspicuous. And it is dioecious, so there's male trees and female trees. So you need one of each in the neighborhood to be able to get the fruit. It has beautiful berries that provide an important food source for birds and other wildlife. It's also a host plant for many inconspicuous insects. Um, in the fall, it has very showy red colored leaves. It also provides wind resistance. It has tolerance to flooding, and it's even tolerant to salty conditions. So it's a very valuable Jersey-friendly tree for your yard, native to New Jersey. And here's Phyllis. And she's actually tending to a polyphemus moth caterpillar that she has protected inside a mist net around the branch of a red maple tree, which is the host plant for these caterpillars. So it's kind of fun to see her in action. And then along her walkway, she's showcasing Virginia creeper, which is a vine. It's a wildlife friendly, woody deciduous vine. And it gets somewhat insignificant greenish white flowers in May through August, but they lead to very, very attractive dark blue to black berries with red stems that are highly valued as a food source by birds and wildlife. And although it does creep up a tree, it does not strangle a tree. So this is a friendly vine. And it's also a host plant for moth larvae, including different sphinx moths. And it's a low maintenance plant once it's established. And just below the Virginia creeper is a American beautyberry bush growing. So it's a deciduous shrub. It has very graceful arching branches and really very delicate flowers and beautiful fruits. So the flowers bloom June through August, followed by very showy, bright purple berry-like fruits, which encircle the stems, and there they are. So the fruits actually remain until early winter, and they're an excellent source of food for many species of birds. So this is a great shrub to plant under trees, in your woodland garden. And here's buttonbush, another favorite. This one's planted at the water's edge. It does like a little bit more moist conditions. It can tolerate flooding. It has fragrant white spherical shaped flowers resembling pincushions. It's just stunning. The flowers bloom in June and provide a nectar source for native bees and butterflies. And hummingbirds. It's also a host plant for butterfly and moth larvae, including some sphinx moths. And there's some various butterflies visiting Florida Viceroy on the top right, black swallowtail on the top left. There's a skipper on the bottom left. And I believe that is a clearwing moth on the bottom right. And this is another wildlife feature. So Phyllis's Jersey Friendly Yard attracts and supports all kinds of wildlife. And this is a hollowed out tree. And right in that cavity, Phyllis enjoyed watching a chickadee raise her family this year. And you can kind of see just beyond that cavity, there's a little nest, and that was a nest of robins that Phyllis also enjoyed watching raise a family in the branches this year. And on the right, there's the chickadee. So Phyllis sent me that photo. She said she enjoyed watching the chickadee go in and out. And she said the chickadee and the robin were actually raising their families at the same time. They each have different preferences for nesting. The chickadee, of course, needs a cavity, and the robin nests on the branches. To the left is also a robin's nest that was built by a robin family in a different location in Phyllis's house in her property. And that photo is just absolutely adorable, with three newly hatched baby robins and one just starting to break out of the egg. So Phyllis is also very talented at creating garden art from reused materials. And the 8 steps of Jersey Friendly Yard, the last one, step 8, is to reduce, reuse, and recycle. And Phyllis has quite a talent for turning one person's trash into her treasure. So I just wanted to share with you a couple of the wonderful pieces of art, plant art, that she has throughout her Jersey Friendly Yard. So here's an old tire, as you can see, that she put some soil in and has some different plants and succulents growing in it. And some odds and ends she picked up with some lovely plants. There's some columbine growing below that one on the bottom right. Some other succulents, something in the watering can. So here's a little ensemble of different treasures she has found, beautifying her garden, reusing. And this is very clever. So there's a sparkly bowling ball that she pulled out of the trash, and it's now decorative art in her garden. She's very clever. And some more treasures she's found. That's actually a two-legged plant stand that she has leaning against the tree with a platform where she can put bird seed or use it for different things. So she has lots of creativity, and those the bed rails there. I don't know if you noticed, but the milkweed, the common milkweed that was rounding the corner, was actually held together by the bed rails of a day bed, she said, that she had found. The milkweed was starting to lean out towards the sun and starting to fall down, so she very cleverly caged it with some decorative bed rails. And then around the other side of her property, she has her Monarch Way Station sign, where she has more milkweed, and she has a beautiful bone set, Eupatorium perfoliatum. So this is actually a clumping perennial. As you can see, it's not yet in bloom, but there's the buds. But clusters of small white flowers will bloom on the top of all these tall stems around July or September. The butterflies and bees value this plant. They value the nectar as a food source. And it is also a host plant for butterfly and moth larvae, including lined ruby tiger moth, burdock borer moth, three-lined flower moth, blackberry looper, geometrid moth, and Clyman moth. Mothers, you can let me know that I'm not pronouncing those correctly, or maybe I am. So this is a lovely plant and a wildlife friendly plant. So you can use bone set in your yard, along your borders, add depth to your landscape, plant it in your rain garden, along woodland edges, meadows, or in naturalized areas of your yard. So thanks so much for joining us this evening to learn about the Jersey Friendly Yards website and to join me on a tour of Phyllis's garden, her Jersey Friendly garden. She's wild about her Jersey Friendly Yard. So we'll stay online for any questions that you might
have. There were some questions. It didn't really pertain to the Jersey Friendly Yards, but there was some questions regarding the labels and the printers, or how she printed the labels. So if you guys want to email me, I put my email where those questions came up. Please let me know, and then I'll get the information. It's a little too much to be putting on there. I'm not an ad for the company, so I don't want to seem that way. And but it is it is fun. I have the labels too. It's a little work and but it does make a little show in the garden.
And if you go on the Jersey Friendly Yards website and go to the plant database and you see all the different filters and you see that you can choose native to New Jersey, you can choose plants that are wildlife friendly, bee friendly, butterfly friendly, you can choose plants that are deer tolerant or rabbit tolerant. So basically all the um, characteristics of plants are, can be included in any signs that you make for your yard as well.
Yes, there was a person early on too that had mentioned wanting to find something in sandy soil or a harder packed clay. They could use the Jersey Friendly to looking for a tree. That would be a great way to find another source of tree material, and not source, but types of trees that would work in that landscape situation she
Right.
has.
So the Jersey Friendly Plant Database is the place to go. Mhm.
Becky, someone did ask what type of soil Phyllis has in her yard.
Oh, good question. She did get a soil test. I apologize. I did not anticipate that question. But if that person wants to share their information, I can share the exact results of that soil test, which would include we got a pH test, I believe texture test, a nutrient test. Um, but I do know that Phyllis's soil is quite sandy um, and dry, as you probably could tell. Um, she does add a lot of compost and a lot of mulch, and she is starting to incorporate what's called green mulch. So I offered a couple of choices for ground covers. So underneath the larger, more showier plants, she's planting ground covers to basically cover the mulch, because ideally you're not going to see any mulch when the garden is mature, and you'll just see your showy perennials or shrubs. And the green mulch, the ground covers, are going to keep your soil moist just as the mulch does. And certainly as the mulch decomposes, they add vegetative matter, organic matter, which is really important for your soil. But the same process happens with ground covers and all the vegetation that's on your plants, because it will die, go into the soil, and provide that organic matter. So really, Phyllis is doing exactly what she should. She's mimicking nature, and that's something that all gardeners, that's um, a great thing that we can do to enrich our own soil, is to mimic nature by planting lots of vegetation, covering every inch of the soil if possible with plants.
Becky, I can also say that I know since she is in the Toms River area, she did get her soil from I believe it was either the county, I believe the county recycling. It was called leaf compost, which is really a soil base more so than the actual compost. And so she did use that to incorporate in her soil, and it was free. So it's a great way. So check your counties. If you're not in Ocean County, you can check your county's recycling to see if they do have a program like that. That's where she also got her mulch as well.
Free. Mm-hmm.
And there is a question in here about, do you know of any seed sellers that specialize in or feature New Jersey natives? And I know one of our speakers that'll be coming up later in our series. So I thought I'd let you comment, or if Karen'd like to comment on that one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Randy Eckel, she's our next speaker. She's going to be sharing "If You Plant It, They Will Come." She owns Toad Shade Wildflower Nursery Farm. And I've purchased seeds from her. In fact, my shrubby St. John's wort, that really unusual looking, beautiful yellow flower that's blooming this year, I bought seeds from her 3 years ago and planted them in my yard. I bought all the ones that said easy or very easy to grow, and pretty much broadcast them on my soil and crossed my fingers. And so high quality seeds, and I now have lots of high quality plants. So that's one seed source. Um, Also, I believe Pinelands Direct down south. They are now an online plant seller, and I believe they're going to be getting into selling seeds as well. And if you attended our Jersey Friendly Yards conference last year in person, of course, we did hand out seeds, or they handed out seeds from Pinelands Nursery, which Pinelands Direct is an affiliate.
And actually, Pinelands Nursery itself does sell native seeds.
Yes.
Do they sell them to residents, or are they only wholesale?
I think you can get them in small enough quantities. They have a lot of mixes too, like
Mhm,
a meadow mix, or for a wet area or a dry area, or pollinator mix.
mhm.
Yes, I think under Pinelands Direct, I think in that part of the Pinelands series. Or
No, it's actually on the Pinelands Nursery
oh, sorry.
main site. No problem.
And then two other all native places you can source seeds, or at least plants, maybe seeds, but you can check, is Wild Ridge, which is up north, and Earth First, which is down south. So there's 4 different choices: Toadshade, Pinelands Direct, Wild Ridge, and Earth First.
And all of them are on the if you want to get their website, their contact information, they're all on the where to buy page on the Jersey Friendly Arts website, all of those nurseries.
And one last question, I don't know if you guys know this one in particular, is neem oil a safe insecticide to use when regarding pollinators? I didn't know if anybody wanted to handle that. I mean, I can, but I figured I'd give you.
I feel like you're the most qualified to answer that.
Well, is it safe? Could you possibly harm some beneficials? Yes, you could. So you do want to try to limit its use and only try to get to the targets. Try to do it a little later in the day when maybe your beneficials are not so active. Like, try not to spray the flower where the bees and the nectar loving critters want to go. But you could also, it has a shorter residual, so it's not long lasting. So that's a good thing in the long run. You may have to spray it a little bit more or more often, but you always want to follow and read label directions. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you. When in doubt, read the label, right? Follow the label directions.
Yes. You got a lot of great comments as well in the Q&A. And somebody asked if we're having a plant sale this year at Rutgers. There are plant sales have been canceled for this season. I do not believe there'll be anything going on in the fall. Or at least not at Cooperative Extension or at the university.
Yeah. But don't forget that, like, and not only the nurseries that are normally retail, by shipping, but a lot of the regular nurseries now have curbside pickup, so call your local native plant nursery. They'll work it out for you.
And there are quite a few native plant. I mean, they're a little bit few and far between, but there are a lot around the state. Maybe not as much up north. I'm not sure since I'm not as familiar with north. But I'm sure we can kind of get a few.
Yeah.
If you guys need to find some.
Yeah, on the where to buy page, there's pretty much at least one in almost every county. A couple don't have one, but yep. Guess that's it for questions.
That's the biggest questions that I noticed. If I missed anybody, you can yell at me. Rosslers in North Jersey. Kevin posted, I'm assuming that meant for a native plant nursery, Rohsler in North Jersey. And that's
Rossler.
Great questions.
That sounds familiar. I'll have to look and see if we added it yet. Yeah, I'm always open to, if you're aware of one, become aware of one that's not on our where to buy page, please contact us. There's a little on the website at the very top, there's a little envelope after the connect. And if you click on that, it will send an email to me, and I'll be sure to add it. As long, if you come across a nursery that's selling native plants, we want to know.
And thank you. Who's putting, is that Becky that's putting that up?
Yeah. Excellent. And there's also an Ask an Expert, which I didn't have a chance to show you, but Becky can show that right now for the people that are still on. If you have a gardening specific question, you fill out the form and your question. You can even share a photo, which is a new feature, and you send that. It will go to your local Rutgers Cooperative Extension office, and an expert like Suser Video or a master gardener will help you out with the answer.
So, yep, I'm not seeing, I'm not seeing any other major questions. I mean, you still have 66 people on. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, they're listening to us.
There's a lot of people saying how good of a job you guys did and
Yeah.
thanking you for the great presentation. So
That's great. We thank you all for joining us. We love to share this, right, Becky? We love to talk about the website.
My favorite thing to do.
And the native plants.
And wildlife, yes.
Yeah, that was very well done, Becky. That was an excellent
Thank you, Karen.
presentation.
Thank you so much. We have a great team. We love our team. Barnegat Bay Partnership, Rutgers Cooperative Extension, and Ocean County Soil Conservation District.
Yep. And we're going to spread, right? We're going to spread the seeds throughout New Jersey.
Instead of wind dispersal, will be voice dispersal or video.
just a reminder to everybody who's still on the participating that with next 2 weeks on the 21st of July is Randy Eckel doing the If You Plant It, They Will Come talk. So please join us in another couple of weeks, another 2 weeks, same on Tuesday at 7. And please, if you like tonight's webinar, please spread the word. We have plenty of room for lots of people to show up. So if you know people who should attend, feel free to ask them to attend.
Yep. And she is excellent, Dr. Randy Eckel. Don't miss that one. She's photographs that she's taken in on her farm where she grows the native plants.
And then Karen, did you have a survey that will be done when you finish the program?
Yes, thank you for mentioning that. So all the participants there will be a pop-up box when you exit the webinar. Please just take a few minutes to answer the questions, whichever ones you want to answer. It'll help us improve our webinars in the future. So we appreciate it if you have some time to answer the questions.
And the question will pop up once Karen closes the meeting.
Yes, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
These are the things I found out the hard way.
Yeah.
So
You're our expert.
Oh no, not at all. But
you are.
But I don't want to keep it on because you do have a couple of people that are still on, which is awesome. But I know the longer we linger, the longer it'll be.
We lose some people to take the survey.
But you guys did a wonderful job. And Antonia is asking, is this available to watch later?
We did record Becky's part of the presentation, which is the better part. So that will be available. The link to see and hear the recording, I'm going to put that on that webpage that you went on to register for, the webinar. So each time we record it, I will add the link there so you can watch them as many times as you'd like.
And actually on the Jersey Friendly Plant Database page, a little real video. So
yeah,
if you want another refresher on how to use the plant database, you can just click on that tutorial video.
Yep. It's basically right. We just had some updates to the plant database. So if you watch the tutorial, the search filters are on the right side instead of the left side, but it's still the same steps that you go through. We'll be updating it soon. All right. I guess.
Great. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us.
Thank you. And thanks, Steve and Susan, for helping, and Christine.
Thank you also very much. Lots of fun.
I just want to let you guys know that the highest number I saw of participants was 107.
Ah, excellent. I saw 105. Maybe, yeah.
Yeah, it pops up and down every once in a while.
Yeah.
So
That's
for the
pretty
number
good.
for the number of people that registered, that's really good.
It is. I'm very happy. That's great.
Very exciting.
Thanks, you guys. You did a great job.
Yes,
Thanks,
you guys did.
Christy.
Lots of fun.
And that number was pretty impressive considering it was on until almost 8 o'clock. So
It held pretty steady too. We didn't really lose a lot along the way.
Okay, let's get on the survey and we'll talk
Okay.
later, yeah?
Yeah, let me end this so maybe they'll take this.
All right.
Okay. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Good job.
Bye-bye. Have a good night, everyone.
All right. Thanks
You
again.
too. Thank you.
Thank you.